Welcome to the Prospective Doctor podcast, brought to you by Med School Coach. Pre-med and medical students alike are encouraged to tune in each week for tips on how to become a strong med school candidate, gain acceptance into the school of your dreams, and succeed on your journey toward residency and becoming a doctor.
Hello, everyone. We're certainly in for a treat today. We have Dr. Manisha Rayavarapu here today. And I'm going to just let her tell us a little bit about herself and her journey to medicine.
Hi, hello. My name is Dr. Manisha Rayavarapu. I am a family medicine physician and an author and a lupus warrior and advocate.
We are very excited to get a little bit into, of course, your book. But I want for the students out there listening, since our audience is mostly pre-medical students and medical students, for you to just explain what inspired you to enter medicine.
So if I'm honest, I actually, when I was born, my parents, I think, had decided that I was going to be a doctor. And I joke about it and say that the donuts that they got when I was born that said, "It's a girl," should have said, "It's a doctor" on it. So this was honestly their dream for my life. And, you know, it seemed like a good thing to do. And I really did take to the sciences and I enjoyed learning. So it just seemed kind of a natural thing to do. But it was never quite my dream.
That seems to be pretty common with a lot of people, where they may enter the field with certain gentle nudges and not exactly realize what being in medicine entails. And then when they get there, they're like, okay, what next? So it's good that you were very transparent about that. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about where you are now. My next question is, what was your biggest challenge in medical school?
For me, my biggest challenge was realizing that there needed to be a lot of sacrifices made to be in medical school. These are sacrifices you don't necessarily think about. I think probably one of my biggest regrets was missing out on a family vacation to India. And it was all my family, all my uncles and aunts, my cousins, my grandmother before she passed away. And there's a photo with everyone in their saris, the traditional Indian dress, everyone in that photo. And I am the only one missing. And, you know, I made a lot of sacrifices to be in medical school. I was studying for boards at the time, which is why I didn't go. You know, and then missing out on different things with family. Family is a huge part of my life, and having to miss things with family, that was tough. The sacrifices that you needed to make to get there. Also, you know, sacrificing on having things like the house, the car, the family, the children, all of that stuff. You know, it definitely is possible to do during medical school, but a good deal of us wait until we're more established. So I think for me, that was the hardest thing during medical school, and kind of the whole process was the sacrifices you have to make.
I totally can understand that, as I'm sure everyone who's experienced medical school definitely has at least one point where they kind of wish, like, it's kind of making that choice and that decision, and you have to kind of step back, and it may be a very big family event, and family is certainly important to me. And it is kind of just looking back at that time and saying, what checks and balances did you have? What did you miss from the experience? And then there is a lot of delayed gratification in a lot of ways, even regardless of how you come into medical school, what your resources are. A lot of times people put their education and us kind of getting to the next rotation, getting to the next step, getting to match day, getting through residency is always what's next. So a lot of times, some of the life events that happen with people similarly in your age may be a little bit delayed for you. So I think that is definitely something for the people who have not entered medical school who are listening yet to consider. It's definitely not something to say, don't go into medicine, but just knowing that there will be times where you may look back and kind of reflect and wish you were somewhere else when you were studying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you are an author. Your book is entitled Butterflies, Boards, and Blessings, A Doctor's Journey Through Thriving with Lupus. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, I always enjoyed writing, and I always dreamed of publishing a book. And I wanted to publish a book that would mean something. And so I told my story of becoming a doctor while living with a chronic illness. I was diagnosed with lupus during my end of the second year of residency training. And I really wanted to share my story so that others out there could see that it was still possible to have a good life, a fulfilling life, a happy life, a successful life, despite living with a chronic illness and, an illness that can be disabling and debilitating. But, life may not end up exactly how you want it to, and you may not stay on the same path, but you can still live that good life despite having this, we all will face obstacles, right? But I wanted to show that it was possible to overcome these things. And I also wanted to bring awareness to the non-chronic illness community and physicians as well. I think it's important, especially for physicians, to understand what life with a chronic illness is like so we can better care for our patients. And, I really wanted people to understand what it really truly was on a day-to-day basis and how a chronic illness really does affect every single aspect of our life, from our health, our careers, our relationships, our spiritual beliefs. Our whole being is affected by a chronic illness, which is, like I said, a very important thing for doctors to learn early on.
I agree. I think that that's very important because a lot of times, especially people who have the passion and dedication to enter medicine, always think about all of the different disease processes and how they affect their patients and things. And most people don't realize that we are all human and things happen and it could happen to you. So figuring out ways to navigate living with a chronic illness while under immense pressure and stress, as well as how to correlate just the humanism of the human experience of living with a chronic disease and how you can educate your colleagues as well as educate your patients. And you have that different perspective since you have lived the experience.
Mm-hmm.
At Med School Coach, we know that getting into medical school is hard. In fact, 60% of pre-meds who apply to medical school don't even get accepted. And if you want to get accepted into a top medical school, it's even harder. It's a complicated process, and even students with great grades and MCAT scores get left out. That's why more students than ever are turning to Med School Coach for admissions advising. Our advisors are all physicians and former admissions committee members, so they know exactly what medical schools are looking for. One-on-one admissions advising from Med School Coach makes all the difference. Our expert team will help you develop a game plan, prepare your application, edit your essays, and coach you for interviews. Every pre-med has a story, and we'll help you tell it so you can stand out from the crowd. Visit us online at medschoolcoach.com and use offer code PODCAST10 to save 10% up to $400 on a Med School Coach admissions advising package. You can achieve your medical school dreams, and Med School Coach can help.
You mentioned several different ways that a chronic illness can impact your daily life. Is there one particular example that you have that you can share with the audience as to how living with lupus and being diagnosed fairly early in your training affected your experience?
With lupus, my symptoms were pain and fatigue, and that's something that affects me every day.
Mm-hmm.
As a resident, as a doctor, we are overworked, so we are tired. But the fatigue that comes with the chronic illness is a whole different beast. It's barely able to keep your eyes open. It's like you've been on that 24-hour call back to back to back to back every single day. And that's what it feels like. And not sleeping isn't going to make it better. Nothing really makes it better. But, there are good days and there are bad days. So every day I'm fatigued. Every day there's some degree of pain. But most days it's a manageable, tolerable, amount that I can still function. I can still do what I need to do. I was able to work full time for my first 2 years after I completed residency. But I realized that wasn't the best thing for me, between juggling doctor's appointments, lab work, infusions, and juggling all of that with a full-time job, plus trying to just keep myself rested. And it wasn't the right thing for me. So I eventually went part-time 3 days a week, and that was perfect for me. So it's affected my career in a lot of ways, but it didn't prevent me from being a doctor still. It wasn't what I thought it would be. And I wasn't going to be going for medical director and things that would involve me having to be there more, but I could still do my job.
That makes a lot of sense. And I love that you, in this part of the conversation, talked about reflecting and figuring out what was best for you. Because in the beginning, when we were talking, you talked about how being a doctor was your parents' dream and doing those kind of things. So as you've grown and evolved and lived life and explored and experienced some things that have been pretty tough, you've figured out how to put yourself first and figure out how to address your needs. So in your book, in chapter 10, the title is called Doctor's Orders, Tips for Living with Chronic Disease. And it gives a variety of great tips as to how to advocate for yourself as a patient, maintain relationships, and practice self-care. How are you practicing self-care?
So the first thing for me is I start every morning in prayer. I start my day with my morning devotional. I pray and I spend time with God, and that's how I start my day. And I will continue to pray and talk to God throughout the day, but this is how I like to start my day. I also make it a point to take at least a 20, 30-minute nap every day. Even if I'm not sleeping, I rest. I shut my eyes for a few minutes, I rest. And I also make it a point to exercise for 30 minutes a day during the week. The weekends I take off. But, caring for yourself, caring for your body is so, so important. And for me, those are my three must-haves. And then if there's a little extra time here and there, maybe a nice hot bath or, treat myself to a nice lunch or something. Go get my toes done, something, pampering myself. But they're the 3 daily self-care things that I do every day. And I make it a routine. And that's something that doesn't change. And I make it a priority for myself to do those things for myself every day. If you don't put it on your schedule, make it that priority, you won't do it.
I totally agree. I love that. I too use a devotional, and it kind of gets your day started and trying to figure out like which purposes, all that kind of stuff. And I know the listeners out there, that may not be for everybody, but you figure out what's right for you. If you want to do affirmations, if you want to kind of look up a positive quote of the day, or all three, that would be awesome. And on top of that, like taking care of your physical health with the exercise. I need to be more consistent myself, but you're totally right about if you don't prioritize and schedule it, you will miss it. So figuring out those ways in order to do the time management and figure out how to study or how to go to your rotations or how to go to work if you're in residency and listening, and still being able to eat, to exercise, to go for a walk, do those things, go outside, get your nails done. All of that can help you decompress and figure out like how to care for others. Because if you don't care for yourself, you can't care for anyone else. So I appreciate those highlights and tips that you've shared. And I'm sure that they can see much more. I've gotten a preview, you guys, in your book as to how to care for patients experiencing chronic illness, as well as you coping with certain things.
At Med School Coach, we know that studying for the MCAT exam can be challenging. especially for busy students on the go. That's why our team created MCAT Prep, the only all-encompassing study app built specifically for the MCAT. MCAT Prep by Med School Coach provides student access to extremely high-quality content and a personalized curriculum for free. The app has more than 250 videos, 1,000 flashcards, and 1,000 unique MCAT questions. Plus, MCAT Prep by Med School Coach allows students to create a personalized study schedule and track progress over time. You need every competitive advantage you can get to get into medical school, and now you can put the experts from Med School Coach into your pocket. It's the closest pre-med students can come to a personal tutor without spending a penny. Download MCAT Prep by Med School Coach for free at medschoolcoach.com/MCAT. Or download it directly from the Apple Store or Google Play Store. You can achieve your medical school dreams, and MCAT Prep by Med School Coach can help.
Well, we've talked about so much in this short amount of time about entering medicine and coping with all of the things that life throws at you that you may not have expected, and kind of persevering through that. What is one pearl of wisdom that you would like to leave with our listeners?
A pearl of wisdom. For me, it's to be perseverant and to be resilient. It's really important to be adaptable, I think. And if you're planning on going into the medical field, I think that's going to be something really important, to learn how to adapt to your surroundings. But when you're adapting, make sure you're still making time for yourself. I think prioritizing yourself and your health is going to be really, really important, because medical school is a crazy time, residency is a crazy time, and you really need to make that time for yourself and just adjust to your surroundings. And part of adjusting to your surroundings is making sure you're taking care of yourself too.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. So where can the listeners purchase your book?
The book is widely available. Barnes & Noble has it, Kobo has it, but the most popular place, common place to get it is on Amazon. It is available as a Kindle ebook as well as a paperback book. I also have a website where you can find it, www.thepatientdoc.com. And I'm always open for questions or to chat or meet anyone. I love sharing my story. I love sharing my experience, especially with people who are just starting out in the medical field. You know, I didn't necessarily love it, but I found things about the profession I did love, like caring for patients. And so I love to share what I've learned in my story with others. So if anyone ever wanted to reach me, they could definitely check me out on my website. They could email me at mail@thepatientdoc or find me on Instagram at Manisha Rayavarapu. I just wanted to, invite anyone. I love connecting.
Well, thank you so much. And listeners out there, I would definitely utilize your resources and reach out if you have any questions. We will place a link for all of the different ways to reach our doctor here on our show notes. So if you have any questions, you can always kind of reach out to us if we want to clarify something. But I'll give you an opportunity to tell everyone goodbye.
Well, goodbye, everyone. And thank you so much for having me on your show. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I really hope that I can connect with some more of you.
Thank you so much for coming. And for the listeners out there, please click that subscribe button, and we will see you again next week. Bye.
Each episode of the Prospective Doctor podcast is brought to you by Med School Coach. To access articles, videos, webinars, and free tools to help you succeed on your journey toward med school and beyond, visit our website, prospectivedoctor.com. We hope you tune in again next time.